Alright, hello everybody, my name is Shanezel, and today we've got a race between Thunder and Preucheu for the FF1 Pixel Remaster any percent tournament. Our runners are getting ready right now, and should be ready to go here in a minute or two. Alright, looks like our runners are readying up here, and race should be starting momentarily. So to start this off, both of our runners are using the standard team that we see in most people's practices and serious attempts at this game, where we use a fighter, a black belt, and 2 black mages. We start off this game with a nice 2-minute long cutscene. And after that we get to buy some equipment, see a quick cutscene with the king, and run up to our first temple to save a princess. There are a lot of cutscenes at the beginning of this game, which can be a little bit annoying when you're first starting out and learning the run, but you get used to it pretty quickly. And our runners here are both 2 top runners at this game, so I expect it to be a pretty close race with some solid times. I believe currently that both of these 2 are undefeated so far in this tournament, so that's going to end for one of them here today. Yeah, the remaster is definitely different than some other versions of the game. In this version of the game, I'll get to some of the differences as we get to them, but the main thing is we actually don't have trap tiles to grind experience on anymore, so we're forced to take most random encounters to try and level up. So we use 2 black mages to nuke everything down with spells, which is the only version that you really want to do that. Normally you only have a black mage to nuke down unrunnables, but unrunnables have been removed from this version of the game for all random encounters. And now the only things you can't run from are bosses, mini-bosses, and like monster in a box type things. Specific enemies that are on the world map that used to be trapped. So let's see if I can figure out how to change the layout here. I don't know if I can actually set that up myself. Give me a second, but both of the runners here are purchasing a rapier and a chainmail armor for their fighters. The fighter is the main tank of the early game. Technically the main tank of the late game also. He's just not going to be wearing any armor late in the game. But right now, he's the only one who can actually tank a hit at all. And the monk we stripped naked, because the monk fights better without weapons and armor on. Early on. Technically, leather armor is better for him for like 2 levels, I believe, but then quickly becomes pretty pointless. So we want to fight all the enemies we see right away, just to try to level up. Our goal is to hit level 4 by the time we get to the next town, Preucheu, for the next mini-boss battle. And this is the battle with Garland. He goes down in 2 rounds usually. You just hope that he hits your fighter once and leaves your black mages alone, because he can one-shot your black mages. So yeah, we beat up Garland pretty easily, and they're both going to save the princess. And she teleports you back to the king. The king thanks you for your troubles and rewards you with a bridge to be able to go further into the game. And before you can leave here, you have to pick up a loot from the princess, which is needed to enter the final dungeon in the game. And in some other versions of the game, like the NES, you can actually forget to pick up the loot, because you're not forced to. In this version, if you try and leave the room, the princess will say, "Hey, wait," and force you to pick it up. I'm trying to figure out how to switch from the up next screen. I'm not 100% sure how to do that, so I'm gonna keep looking around to see if I can find some things to do that. But after beating up Garland, we need to get our spell charges back for our black mages and heal up, because we have to take a couple battles here on the way to the next town. And we walk over the bridge and get our final long cutscene of the game. There will be a few other short cutscenes later on, but not for a good while. This is the last one of the early game, at least. And so this cutscene right here lasts about 1 minute and 45 seconds. It's just, some of the story to telling you what your light warriors are about to embark on, their nice little journey. But of course, we would want to skip that if we could, but sadly we can't in this version. Forced to watch it. But it will be ending quite shortly here, and we will be able to run over to town. In our next town, we're going to be buying some spells called Temper, which are late game spells, which we will be using for... We won't use much in the early game, but we'll use them a lot in the late game. But we want to purchase them early, so we don't have to go back to the town. And we want to hit level 4 on our fighter, so that he can be able to one-shot the pirates that are coming up as the next little mini-boss. We generally want to run from anything that's going to take too long to kill off, or has the potential to kill off your party members. So the wolves here that Thunder is getting aren't great for money, but their experience is okay. What we really want to see are ogres, which so far we have not seen. Ogres are worth 195 gold apiece, and we don't get any of them. Both of the runners here are going to be very short on fun. And Preucheu's gonna force an encounter, possibly? No, he's okay. So it looks like neither runner is going to be level 4. But they're both gonna go pick up their double tempers. Temper is going to be used for the Astos battle and all of the endgame battles. So yeah, here we are, pirate fight. The pirate fight's not too difficult. We hope that the black mages don't get it targeted like Preucheu's did. You would like them to get this experience and not have to spend 80 gold to revive them, but sometimes that's just what you get to deal with. Yep, double black mages is the standard. It's something that almost every runner will do. Very few will stray from that, because that's what is considered the fastest. And people will probably keep doing that until proven otherwise. So we both get the ship. With the ship, we are going to sail around the sea and get more money and experience, because we can get to slightly better enemies. The enemies we would like to see in the ocean are buccaneers. They are the best to see. They give the most money, and right now we are very short on fun. Sharks give only 66 gold apiece, but they give amazing experience. But they can one-shot your party members pretty easily. Like your little fish black mages there. So you don't want to see too many sharks early on. The Chief Hagans are worth 105 gold. They're worth the second most in the ocean. So it's good to see Chief Hagan. The big eyes there are not worth much. They're only 10 gil, so you really don't want to see them. They're worth a counter and they can paralyze. Neither runner is getting amazing counters, but it could be a little worse there. Like Thunder's mage, they're dying, there's no shark. And both runners, nope, only Thunder's going to town to revive and heal. Yeah, as Jess said, it is odd to see black mages actually like doing things. Normally in the early game, for most versions of this game, black mages don't do anything. But in this one, you need every little bit of damage on all the enemies. You want to cast even tier 1 spells are very important. In this version of the game, we cast a lot of spells. Black mages are your main carry for the whole early game. They do all the heavy lifting until you get to end game. The creature here is trying to get another encounter. Both runners are going to be trying to get 1,000 bucks before they get to the next town, so that they can purchase a Thundara spell to quickly take out the sea encounters in one shot. And the temper spell is used quite often in the early game here with Sharks. Sharks have no defense, and tempered physical attacker can make pretty quick work of them. But you do have to worry, as these sharks can take out your party members left and right. As we've seen, both runners have lost character to sharks now. It's something that will happen, because those sharks are not friendly. Preucheu could be in a bit of a pickle here, and looks like he's going to power off his game. But sadly, there is no such thing as a soft reset in this version of the game. If you don't like what's happening, you have to close out your game, or wait for all of your characters to die. Once you're out of combat, you can go to the menu and say return to title. If you're stuck in combat, there's only two ways out. Or close the game, or to just wait until you die. Or you can try and run away, that also can work. But luckily Preucheu did make a quick save when he was on the world map, halfway down to it. So you can make a quick save in this game anywhere you want. Just like lots of other versions of the game, like PS3, GBA, PS1, you can make those little quick save / memo saves. And this version of the game also has an autosave feature. And the autosave will save the game every time you zone into a new area. Whether that's a new floor, new town, whatever. It will save every time you make a new zone entrance, so whenever we walk into and out of Elfland, it'll make an autosave. And our runners will be utilizing both the auto and quick save options quite often, because most likely they were both going to need to load at some point in the game. Thunder here, he had plenty of money since he fought 5 Buccaneers. That's 600 gold, so he's ready for Marsh Cave. That's the battle we want to see. It's supposedly a relatively common encounter on the ocean, but it feels like we hardly see it. We generally see the Sahagins and Big Eyes most often. Sahagins are pretty common to see. We don't want to see them since they're not worth a whole lot, but it's what we get to see. So, in this version of the game, your characters have set strong level ups, like in most other versions of the game, but this ones are a little bit different if you're used to like NES randomizers and stuff. On the NES, your characters get strong levels up a lot quicker. This one, not as much. So your black mages get their first guaranteed strong level up, which is your vitality divided by 4 plus 1 is a standard level up. And when you get a strong level up, on top of that, you also get an extra 20 to 25 HP. Black mages get their first strong level up at level 4. So if you see on Thunder's screen, one of his mages only has 50-ish hit points. And that guy has only gotten his strong level up from level 4. And he won't get another one until level 8. His bottom mage, on the other hand, actually has an extra level up of hit points. On every level you have a chance to gain any stat you're not guaranteed to gain, at a 1 in 8 chance. So there's always a chance you can get lucky and have extra hit points on your character. HP is the easiest thing to notice that with, but it can happen for every stat. So like the monk, we would like him to gain bonus strength and agility, so he can do more damage in battle. The mages, we would like them to get more intelligence, so they can do more damage with their spells. Intelligence does affect your mages' spell damage in this version, which is why we use black mages over red mages. And Thunder having an unfortunate death there. Scorpions are an encounter you don't want to see. They hit very hard, and they can poison you. And they also hit twice, so they can take out your mages quite easily. So our runners will probably be making a lot of quick saves, running around so that they don't have to deal with some unfortunate deaths like that. So right now, Thunder is ahead. Thunder is in the Marsh Cave right now, while Preucheu is still preparing himself for the Marsh Cave. but depending on how different boss fights go, anything can happen. So like Thunder could struggle with the wizard battle here, or he could struggle with Astos fight, and next thing you know, Preucheu is caught right back up. There's a lot of RNG in this, and it looks like Thunder is making a little bit of a side trip here to pick up extra money in Marsh Cave, which is a nice safety measure. It's something I haven't done personally on this version yet, but I can see the merit behind it. So getting ambushed here is like an instant reset. Thunder is just going to wait for his character to die, most likely. No, he's going to try and play it out. And he got great turn order, as long as his other characters can kill off the Pisco Demons quickly. He had to double Thundara it, which is unfortunate. One Thundara can take out the Pisco Demons. They have 84 hit points. So we'll see if Thunder wants to keep with this, or if he wants to try the fight again. Looks like he's going to keep it. So having the fighter die is actually a good thing. A lot of top runners will allow their fighter to die off quickly, so that he's not soaking up XP in the early game. The fighter has honestly done most of his job for the whole run. It's just to get us through the Pisco Demon battle. That's his whole job. Then after that, he's going to be turned into a statue soon, and he'll become the ultimate meat shield. So Preucheu's entering Marsh Cave now. Our runners will be passing by each other shortly. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Thunder decided to try and take that encounter and make it work. I mean, he got lucky and he made it through it. So that's what matters. Because if those Pisco Demons would have attacked his Black Mages, it would have been over real quickly. So yeah, our runners passing by each other right now. Thunder's on his way out while Preucheu's on his way down to the Pisco Demons. Pisco Demons are... it's a tough encounter. It's not one you want to take, but you kind of have to. And that's actually the main reason why we buy Thundara. Thundara does help us with the sea encounters, but we mostly use it for the wizards. Or Pisco Demons, sorry. So Pisco Demons, they resist fire and ice, but they don't resist lightning. And that is why we pick up Thundara for them. Thunder here getting an ogre battle, so he's going to go out of his way to take it. Ogres are worth great experience and money early on, and most runners will try and take as many of them as they can. The Grey Ooze battles, which Preucheu just ran from, are also worth an insane amount of experience. Actually, they are worth more than an ogre. A lot of people will try to take them, but they are pretty threatening to your mage's health. So Thunder here is about to do a very difficult boss battle with Astos. It is a very RNG based fight. Astos is a black mage, and depending on what spells he casts on your party members, can quickly change the outcome of the battle. So he is probably going to use Temper on his monk, and try and melee down Astos as quickly as possible. And after he gets a few Tempers up, he's probably going to just nuke Astos down. So far, Astos has been pretty nice, casting Sleep and Haste, two spells not automatically threatened. Dark is annoying, so his monk is not going to be able to hit as often, but the fight's been very kind to him so far. He could end it in the next turn. And Preucheu pretty easily making it through the Pisco Demon battle with one death on his monk. I believe he still has his Phoenix down. He does, so he's fine. But Thunder getting some of that unfortunate luck from Astos. Casting death on his monk, then AoE killing off his mages. And Astos actually high rolled with his luck. So enemies' stats are mostly set besides their luck stat. Their luck is randomized when you fight them. And if Astos rolls high luck, his spells can do a lot of damage. Normally his Fire Off spells do about 80 damage to a mage, but if he high rolls, they can do over 100. So yeah, the 80, that's a normal roll. And Thunder takes down Astos. He will probably keep that because that's an acceptable turnout. One mage dying. He has potions still that he can use on his other characters to get them up and to run back to town. Astos is not a fun encounter. He can really screw you over based on how he wants to cast spells. And in the Pixel Remaster here, enemy scripts are a bit different than they used to be. In every other version of the game, enemies always cast spells in a specific order. So like Astos' first spell would always be Death. That's not the case anymore. Enemies can cast spells in any order. Each spell has a specific chance to be cast. So some they will try to use more often than others, like fighting up against Lich soon. His most common spell to cast is Blizzara, but it doesn't mean he's going to cast it on. So Thunder's going to pick up his second Thundara spell. Some runners like to buy Fire here for extra safety in Earth and Ice Cave. But Thunder is not doing that. And he's going to leave his fighter dead even longer. Because he doesn't need the fighter around for a while. Probably revive him before making the trip over to Dwarf Cave, or he'll revive him once we get to the 3rd floor in Earth Cave. Runners choose to revive the fighter at different times. I usually revive them in Corneria because it's a cheap 40 gil compared to a 500 expense. Yes, this is actually a very good matchup between these runners. They are both in the top 4 for their personal bests. So it can be a very close race. Even though Thunder's got the lead now, that can change based on boss luck. So Preucheu's making his way up to Astos now, and hopefully he can beat Astos in one attempt. Well, it took Thunder 2. That can save him a bit of time and have him catch up a bit. And now Thunder is going to be doing some fetch quests. And while doing these, we want to try and take all of the high experience and money encounters we can. Because there is a lot of shopping we need to do here. We have spells to purchase and a lot of items to buy. Starting off with Thundara is not what you want to see. Sadly, his black belt goes down already. So he's going to have to rely on the fighter and black mages to finish off this battle. The fighter is not the one you want to have much experience on, but sometimes it can't be helped. His monk died to the Pisca Demon battle, and it looks like he's just gonna reset. He wants that monk to survive. Which is understandable, because your monk is the one who needs the XP. But the fighter you don't care about. And you guys will see why shortly, once we get to the Earth Cave. In about 10-ish minutes, we'll be there. And I'll go over the mechanics for having our late game tent ready. So in Montoya's Cave there are 3 treasure chests. They are not high value chests, but almost every runner picks them up, because funds are so tight this early in the game. Astos casting slow on turn 1 is actually kind of bad. It makes it so your melee characters are not doing much damage. But we do have spells on the black mages, so you can still nuke down Astos in a few rounds. And if he keeps casting spells like Sleep, Sleep isn't too bad. It wastes time more than anything else, but it's not killing your characters, so that's actually good to see. And if you have anybody die on Astos, you definitely want to beat a fight. Astos is worth a whole bunch of XP. Getting some good old Buccaneers on Thunder's side. They are worth 600 gold, and that's greatly appreciated. And Preucheu takes down Astos. So it took each of them 2 attempts for Astos, which is honestly pretty normal. You want to see 1 attempt on Piscodemons, but 2 attempts is something you can expect. Same thing for Astos. 2 attempts. Some of the boss fights in this game you just expect to die a lot more often too, because you have to just get lucky to beat them. And there are other bosses that you expect to always beat in the first try. All of the early game fights are kind of iffy, because our black mages have low hit points and no armor. So we just have to hope for the best for a lot of things. Thunder here is going to get the Mystic Key. The Mystic Key opens up all of the locked treasure rooms in the game. And weirdly enough, there's also a few chests in the late game that are also locked by the Mystic Key for some reason. Oh yes, when we get to Lich can take people out quite a bit. He is a notoriously difficult encounter, but sometimes he can just be really nice and literally do nothing to you. That's all just up in the air for how RNG works. Thunder didn't actually... that was not an accident. On some versions of the game, like the NES, lots of players run outside of the left part of the cave quickly to just leave the dungeon so you don't have to run all the way through the whole castle again. It can save a very small amount of time if done optimally. I personally only do that on the NES, but some runners do it on this version also. It is a tiny bit faster on the NES. On the Pixel Remaster version, I'm not sure. It's probably pretty close to the same amount of time as just running through the whole floor. But Thunder does have a very fast time in this game, so he's probably tested out the times, and maybe it saves him half a second, and he feels that's worth doing. But it is something that some runners do. So Thunder here is making his final shopping spree before going to the Earth Cave. You want to buy a good chunk of ethers, potions, at least 1 gold needle, and a couple phoenix downs. And don't forget your antidotes. So yeah, fighting goblins on the way up to Montoya isn't really something you want to see. They are worth nothing. So, just running away is ideal. Yeah, Thunder is up by a little bit, and looks like he's gonna go revive his fighter. It costs 40 gil to revive at the clinic, compared to 500 for a Phoenix down. I was wondering if he was going to revive them or not. Some runners like to wait until you're in Earth Cave, and they'll take the money long, just for the bonus XP on your other characters. Now that XP only matters in the early game. By the time you get to late game, even if you force the fighter to miss a ton of experience, he's only going to be down 1 level by the end game. So that XP only matters early on, because later on you're going to be taking fights that give more experience than we've earned so far. Some more Buccaneers. It kinda stinks to only see 3 Buccaneers, because that's only 360 gold. But it's always welcome. It's much better than seeing the Sahagin. Sahagins are not worth much. Thunder is entering the Dwarf Cave. Dwarf Cave, we have a lot of free gold to pick up, and we have a ton of treasure chests here in a minute to pick up after this short cutscene. So we didn't have any real cutscenes for a while, but now we get a good 30-second cutscene here by talking to the dwarf who's going to blow open the canal for us. which is why we had to do all the fetch questing. First, we get the crown from the Pisco Demons. Then we get the Crystal Eye from Astos. Take that to Montoya to get the Jolt Tonic. Give that to the Elf Prince. Then you get the Mystic Key to grab the TNT. And you just run around quite a bit. Yes, when you talk to Narek, you want to talk to him from the south side. If you talk to him from his right side, which is quickest to get to, you'll take more time to slowly walk around him. So you generally want to hold down, then diagonally walk a little bit to the southwest and quickly talk to him. It doesn't save you much time, but every fraction of a second does help. Preucheu's Marsh Cave wasn't terrible, but his sea encounters were kind of bad. He had quite a few deaths on the ocean to sharks, which set him behind a bit, which is pretty common when you're running the game. And in a non-race situation, you just reset for a poor early game. But since we're racing, the runners just have to mitigate the damage they take and just try and figure out the best course of action to make it through as quickly as possible. So yeah, Thunder is about to go over to Melmond, a town that most people don't like. It doesn't have a clinic, it doesn't have an item shop, so it can be difficult to purchase things from that town. But they do have some important armor for our mages that I'm not sure if our runners are going to pick up. But both of our runners will be picking up Fire Aegis spells, which will be necessary for beating up Lich and the vampire coming up. Looks like Thunder does not have enough money to buy a silver bracelet, so he's only going to be purchasing 2 Fire Aegis spells, which is what I expected. We'll see what Preucheu does when he gets there. He's only a little bit behind. It's still anybody's race for sure. I mean, Thunder could have a bad Lich encounter and next thing you know, Preucheu's ahead of him. A lot of this early game is just running around for your quest items, for all the fetch quests. But now that's over and we get to start fighting. Thunder is fighting a great encounter here. Lesser Tigers have a very small chance to drop X potions, which are a full restore item. Which, if you can get 1 or 2 of them to drop in the early game, that can save you about a minute of time later on in the game. Because you won't have to pick up more X potions or elixirs. Even though this is a marathon setting, there's a chance that our runners will just take all the extra full heals possible. But it is relatively rare. We generally only see a drop like once every other race. I know the last race I was in, neither of us got an X potion drop. And the last one I watched before that, neither runner had an X potion drop either. So with that logic, this one's probably the run that's gonna get an X potion. We'll see if Preucheu can get an X potion. That can help save him some time in the later game. And now that we're in Earth Cave, we're going to try and take a lot of encounters. So we want our black mages to be level 12 before the vampire. Which looks like one of his mages is 12. I don't think his top mage is 12 yet. Gargoyles are not a friendly encounter. They attack 4 times, and they honestly don't hit that hard. But our mages are naked, so they can't absorb any of that damage. So the gargoyles can do about 80 damage a swing to you, take you out in 2 shots. But yeah, we want to hit level 12 for beating up vampires, so we have the Fire Aegis spell. 2 Fire Aegis will take out the vampire. And eventually we'll have to be level 15 for beating up Lich. because for Lich we're going to need 3 Fire Aegis on each mage. And even that's not enough to kill him. But it puts him really close to death at least. So Preucheu blowing open the canal. Then he can run over to Melmond and we'll see if he has the funds to buy a silver bracelet. Some runners like to grab silver bracelets to give at least one of your mages survivability. I personally always try and have enough money to buy a silver bracelet, so I can at least have my lowest health black mage have some armor, so he can survive at least one hit. But we'll see what Preucheu does when he gets there. So, something different in this version of the game that other versions don't have is any of the large enemy groups there, like the ogres and thief ogres. There were 6 of them on the screen. In every other version of this game, there's a maximum of 4 large enemies. In this version, you can have up to 8 large enemies, I believe. The most you see in Marsh Cave, or in Earth Cave, I believe, is 6. But later in the game, you can get up to 8 large enemies on the screen at once, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it can be 9. There's allowed to be 9 small enemies. And I'm pretty sure only up to 8 of the large enemies. So that's still twice as many as was allowed on every other version of the game, which is kind of cool. So Thunder is actually looking for a cockatrice battle here, which he's finding just now. So we want the cockatrice to petrify the fighter and the monk. And since they're both petrified, he got them both very quickly, which is nice to see. So we want them to be petrified because they will become our tank. The top character has a 50% chance to be targeted in battle, while your second character has a 25% chance to be targeted in battle. So with that, your mages have a 75% chance to not be hit by enemy attacks. And that is very nice for their survivability, and you don't have to heal up your top characters anymore. So Preucheu does not have enough money to buy a silver bracelet either, which is relatively common. So as in chat, we actually do pick up a coral sword, and okay, some runners pick up the coral sword and equip it to the fighter, so that the short time while you're using the fighter, he can take out enemies. But then we end up unequipping him once he becomes a statue. And then we sell the coral sword. Like you see, Thunder here is removing all of his equipment. Preucheu's getting 2 lesser tiger battles in a row, but no X potion drops. But yeah, the elemental weapons, they do get used for a short period of time. And it makes your fighter do a lot more damage when you're fighting giants and minotaurs when they're in, and trolls when they're in a single group by themselves. But we don't use it that long in the game. Now if you're doing a different party setup where you're using red mages aren't very good at casting spells, so you would actually want to use all of those weapons. And you would use them for quite some time. There are a few runners that have used red mages. I know I've used them quite often in the past, and there are a few others that will use like 1 red mage, 1 black mage. And if you do that kind of party comp, you can put those weapons onto your red mage, and your red mages can actually do pretty decent melee damage with them. Like honestly, a lot of the time your red mage is going to be doing more damage than your monk in the early game. And comparable damage to the fighter. So both the runners are on the same floor, or about to be on the same floor. They are very close to each other, just Thunder has already grabbed the ruby, while Preucheu's on his way to it. So they're still not that far apart. One bad boss fight can definitely make the Preucheu catch back up. And so Thunder is level 14 right now. He's trying to get up to level 15 on both of his mages. Once he gets to 15, he doesn't take any more encounters. but a lot of times runners will take battles that you can take out in one round, because it's safer than trying to run and failing to run. So Preucheu's got a little bit of XP to go, catch up to that. And both runners are stopping to pick up the extra money in Earth Cave, which is great because we're going to be tight on money for the entire game. Up until we walk into the final dungeon, we pretty much need money. So now Thunder's out of the dungeon, and a lot of runners will use a tent to restore some spell charges on both mages, so that you can take all of the random encounters on the way to Sarda's Cave and back. Because using a tent is cheaper than 1 ether, and it restores 4 spell charges that we will be using. And we are getting the Cockpit battle on Preucheu's side, so a lot of runners will like to knock the Cockpit down to only 2. Because when there are 4 there, it can be very scary, and they can quickly petrify all of your mages. And if they petrify your mages, it can be a quick game over. So just hoping for the monk to get hit here, which sometimes can take a while. I feel like I generally have a hard time getting my characters petrified, which we are seeing here. The monk just does not want to get hit. And there we go, the whole party got petrified, so sadly he has to restart. Luckily, he did a quick save after he picked up his money chest, so he doesn't lose too much time there. So that's definitely something that can happen with the Cockpit battle. We hope to get statues, and sometimes they just make everyone a statue. But yes, we want to keep one person a statue for the entire run. I've done a lot of runs where I try to have a 4-man party for Chaos with no statues, and a lot of times it doesn't work out very well. Unless you have a white mage in your party to keep healing your team every round, you want to have a statue there to absorb hits from Chaos. Because Chaos hits really hard, and if you have a statue there who can just absorb 2 or 3 swings, that can just save your whole run. It's much better than just trying to buff up your team quickly. In a speedrun setting, you just don't have the hit points on characters to survive very many rounds of Chaos. So having a statue is pretty important. Back when the route was pretty new, we actually used to class change the whole party and have a white mage and a fighter. And you can have a knight, sorry, not a fighter. Class change the fighter into a knight and have him be your main tank in the late game with lots of armor on. And you can do that as long as you have a white mage spam and heal Aga every round to keep yourself alive. But of course, some people messed around with different party comps and found out black mages to be real quick for running through the game, and we went for the riskier strategy. Alright, round 2 for Preucheu's Cockpit battle. There we go, the monk getting petrified first is actually what you really want to see, because the fighter is going to be getting hit a lot more often than the monk does. But yeah, if Chaos had half as much HP as he does now, you could probably get away with not having a petrified character and just trying to buff real quick. But Chaos is too much HP for that. 20,000, you have to buff up a lot and swing at him quite a few times to take him out. I mean, unbuffed attacks from your characters at the late game are hitting for like 80 damage. So you're gonna spend quite a few rounds buffing to be able to take out the boss of the game. And honestly, most of this run is preparation for Chaos. Because it's the hardest fight in the game, and also the most RNG heavy fight in the game. So like the whole run is just build up for Chaos. We are fighting many encounters to gain levels, so we have hit points to survive his special attacks. And Thunder here is working on his second dive through the Earth Cave. He now has the Earth Rod in hand, so he can get past the 3rd floor and go down to the 4th and 5th floor, where you find our first fiend of the game. So if you didn't know, our characters have 4 crystals that have been depleted of their power. You're going to beat up the 4 different fiends of all their elements to restore the power to your crystals. And this is the first one that we get to see. And so it looks like Preucheu's mages have, or one of his mages anyways, has really good HP. Having 160 this early on is great to see. When we get up to Lich in a minute, Lich can cast Blizzara, which on average does around 130 to 135 damage. You really want your mages to at least be able to survive one cast of Blizzara. You are not going to be able to survive a double Blizzara. It's just not going to happen. But you at least want to survive one round of spells. So yes, in this version of the game, and only this version of the game, your petrified characters can still be targeted in battle. And that is the only reason why we actually have our characters become statues. They still gain experience, and they can still be targeted. So this way we can level up our monk, while just using our black mages. So getting our characters petrified has multiple uses. The first one is, you don't have to worry about healing them anymore, because they're going to take a lot of damage and both of our characters are naked. The second one is, you don't have to give them commands in battle, which is great for speed. And Thunder here, his top black mage, has gained enough intelligence to hit the next spell damage breakpoint. So his top mage's Fire Aegis spells are doing about 275 to 280 damage a spell, which is great to see early on. Wait, both of his mages hit the intelligence threshold? That's insane. He should have a pretty easy Lich fight. A normal Lich fight will take you 4 rounds to kill. He's not going to need 4 rounds. 3 rounds is all he's going to need. Preucheu's picking up his Earth Rod here, then gets to make his way back to the Earth Cave. He still has time that he's able to make up, based on how boss fights go for Thunder. This run is honestly anybody's race until the final boss. Since Chaos is so RNG heavy, you can be ahead by 10 minutes and still lose on Chaos. So we'll see how Thunder's Lich here goes. With 2 mages having good intelligence, it should be a pretty quick fight. Should being the word there, because one of his mages can die to a Blizzaga. Fyra is not what we want to see. We want to see spells like Hold and Haste. Just things that waste turns, or him meleeing one of the top characters. Like that, and looks like Thunder's gonna win. Having the high intelligence on both mages, he only has to use 5 Fire Aegis, compared to the normal 6 and a Thundara. And if you're really unlucky on damage rolls, it takes 2 Thundara instead of just 1 in the 4th round. Preucheu restoring his spell charges, and he's entering the Earth Cave again. So he still needs to hit level 15, or 15 plus I should say, so that he has 3 Fire Aegis for Lich. Thunder's opting to use a tent here so that he doesn't have to stop by Melmond and restore his spell charges. Some runners like to hit up Melmond for the cheap inn and a full heal for your spell charges, and others want to just run by as quickly as possible. Oh yes, I definitely saw your run earlier today, Trenton, where Lich was not kind to you. It's always nice getting by in one try. That's what you hope for on Lich. But don't expect to get by Lich in one try. It is quite common for him to beat you up. All he has to do is cast 2 elemental spells of any type, and your team's dead no matter what. Alright, Preucheu hit 15. That's the bare minimum for level, so he's good on experience now. And he'll probably just take quick 1-round encounters. Or if he wants to play it safe, just take as many as he can, just to keep earning more gold for the next shopping spree. Because once we get to the next town, which Thunder's on his way to right now, we have a lot of items to purchase. So we were just in Earth Cave for a very long time. Well, now we get to go through Ice Cave and Waterfall in one little trip together. To get through there, we need more potions, a lot more ethers, and probably some more resurrection items. And of course, we're going to need to buy some very expensive spells. These Ank Eggs, or Peds, from the NES version, they are worth quite a bit of experience here. That fight's going to give over 4,000 XP, which is great to see for your team. They are not worth much money, but the XP is amazing, and definitely worth taking. And he gets it twice in a row. I'm going to assume he's going to recharge his spells once he gets to Crescent Lake. The Crescent Lake Inn costs 200 bucks, so it's more expensive than a tent. So it's actually, with him healing, looks like he's probably not going to use the inn. The inn is slower than just using items, but using items will definitely cost you a lot more money. So here we sell off the rest of the gear and buy up items. You can spend all of your money down to 26,000 gold. Once you're at 26k, you need to save all the rest. And most runners will spend every bit of money that they can. Buy as many items now as they can. Because we need to save 26k here for 2 Thundagas. Thundaga is very important for the rest of the run. It's used for taking out encounters in the river, in Ice Cave, in Waterfall, in honestly most of the rest of the dungeons throughout the game. So you definitely want both of your mages to have Thundaga. Preucheu still working on his way through the 4th floor of Earth Cave, now onto the 5th. He probably has about 3 more fights until he gets to Lich, and hopefully he can also make it through Lich in one try. Because he definitely needs to get through under sub 1 hour and try and play catch up a bit with Thunder. And so Thunder, both of his mages have high intelligence already. That means he's going to be able to one-shot most enemies on the river. So in this version of the game, they condensed all of the river encounters down to one group. Back in the day for the NES, it was split up to the southern rivers and the northern rivers, and the enemy groups were wildly different. Now we have just one set group, and there's a lot of very difficult encounters on the river for this point in the game. Now a lot of those fights give really good experience, and some of them give good gold. Not that many, just the Furgator that gives good gold. So you have to be careful walking over the river, or canoeing over the river, and lots of people will make many quick saves on the river, because you can die. And here we go for Lich. Seeing Hold isn't terrible, but it kind of sucks it was on his Black Mage. His top mage does have high intelligence though. But getting nuked with Thundara twice, that'll take you out. So we've got both sides to Lich being shown off. The easy Lich of not killing anyone, then the Lich that just spams spells. In previous versions of the game, he would always start with Blizzara. Then he would give you a few turns until he gets to his next damage spells. So on those versions of the game, you would only have to make sure that you can survive one Blizzara, then you'd be good. Now that's not the case, because you never know what he's doing. So Preucheu's looking pretty good here. One more spell should take out Lich. And there we go. So Lich down, and that Lich was kind. Didn't do a single point of damage to him. So Thunder here is inside the Ice Cave now. Ice Cave is got some very dangerous encounters. We have to be very careful running through the Ice Cave. A lot of enemies here can either instantly kill you, they can knock you out with AoE, they can stun lock you. There's a lot of deadly things that can happen in this cave. A lot of the enemies are worth good experience and gold, which we want to take, but it's also a scary place to be, and it doesn't hurt to make a few extra quick saves while you're in the Ice Cave. Because you never know when you're going to fight two Frost Dragons and they're going to ambush you and just instantly kill your whole party. So, our monk is a statue for a little while longer. We will eventually be reviving him, but not until we get up to Tiamat. That is the normal place for people to revive their monk. Some people like to revive the monk a little bit sooner, but normally he stays a statue until Tiamat's castle, when he finally gets some armor and can actually do decent damage, and we need his damage to beat down the bosses. So for all the early bosses, we can just cast a few spells and take them out. But the late game bosses, they're kind of resistant to magic. We need to use a melee character for that. So these Frost Wolves have a chance to drop an Ice Shield, which is something you definitely like to see. It's worth a good bit of gold. And Thunder here is going to skip over the Ether Chest, which some runners like to grab. It's only 150 gil if you think about it, so it's not really a very high value chest, but it's only like 2 steps out of your way. You generally will not get an extra encounter for picking it up. We see our Pispa Demon friends again, which can definitely take out your mages still, because our mages still have no armor for either of our runners. They're both wearing clothes, which absorb 1 point of damage. So Evil Eye here is not a very threatening encounter, but we cannot farm him like we do in a lot of other versions of this game. Once we pick up the floater, the Evil Eye is gone. So in most versions of this game, you just walk back and forth here fighting a bunch of Evil Eyes for amazing experience and gold, for a relatively easy fight. But sadly in this version we can't do that, so we just have to fight everything. Preucheu making his final purchases before going to Ice Caves. You always want to be careful when buying your items, that you don't spend too much. You'll see a lot of runners take their time when their money gets a little low to guarantee that they don't spend too much. Because if you go down to like 25k and you can't buy 2 Thundagas, you're gonna have to go take some extra fights outside or sell some of those items. Circle of Sages and picking up a canoe. The canoe is from the sage that you might not expect it to be from, since he's not like the leader of the sages, and doesn't look different, but that's the guy we get to go to. Mr. 5 o'clock, not 6. Thunder here is on his way out of the ice cave, and gets to run through the river one last time to pick up his airship. So the floater, or levee stone that we picked up, it is used to get our final piece of transportation, the airship, which, unlike all other forms of transportation, is encounter free. So it's definitely a nice relief to get a good ways through the game here. So Thunder will have one more trip over the ocean, and then he won't see these aquatic enemies anymore. And looks like our runners are going to be high-fiving each other on their way to and from the ice cave. Both runners with the same encounter here. This encounter is worth a lot of XP. And it's also pretty good money. It's definitely welcome to see as long as you have the spell charges and the enemies aren't mean. Those white crocs can one-shot your black mages very easily. So it's definitely worthwhile to save when you're in the river, because you don't want to get ambushed and just taken out before you even get a chance to go. And the Ni Ocho is actually the one enemy on the river that you can cast fire spells on, because he doesn't resist fire and he's also not weak to lightning. So you can save your Thundaga cast, which is nice. So Thunder does have a pretty good lead over Preucheu here, but it is nothing that a Chaos can't make up. Always something to think about, because both of these runners do have very good times and can easily pull it off. You never know how this Chaos fight will go once we get there. I've seen Chaos battles take 20 minutes, and I've also seen them over in 2.5 minutes. So Bloodbones there cannot be taken out in 2 Thundaras. You will need to cast Fire Aga or Thundaga to kill them. Thundara also does not take out a lot of the Spectres, I think they're called in this version. It's not guaranteed to take them out anyways. It is likely to take them out, but not guaranteed. The Ice Gigas battles, they are worth okay experience in gold, but generally not worth taking when there's only one of them. You generally want to only take them when they have the Frost Wolves with them. Frost Wolves give you a bit more gold, and of course a chance to get the Ice Shield drops. Thunder is going up to the waterfall now, where we get to pick up our cube, the next key item we need to enter the Flying Fortress. While Preucheu's on his way to go find his Levee Stone. The waterfall is a place where you can get some decent encounters. A lot of them aren't great, but they are just slowly becoming better and better every dungeon we go through. And it will stay that way, honestly, for most of the game, until we get the volcano. But some of these waterfall fights aren't worth taking, like the clay golems, and if you only see like a single or even a double nightmare, a lot of runners will run from those. Some people will take packs of 3 clay golems. You can kill them in 2 of your Thundaga spells, and they're worth decent XP. Now if you have a melee-centric team, you can take out those clay golems in 1 melee attack. So they are very worth it if you have like red mage take them. And here, Thunder is about to pick up the first ribbon in the game. Ribbon is a very important piece of armor that we want to have on all 3 of our active party members. The ribbon will half all elemental damage you take, and will prevent most status effects, most of the time. It's not guaranteed. You still can be petrified and paralyzed through the ribbon. It's just not very likely anymore. So yeah, lots of people think that the ribbon will halve all magic damage, but that's not true. It only halves elemental damage that you take. So some enemies have non-elemental spells like Nuke, and Flare, and Tsunami, Cyclone. Those are all non-elemental, and the ribbon will not half the damage you take from those spells. But it is still something that we really need to have on, because there is a lot of elemental damage and instant death abilities that we do want to mitigate. So Preucheu's picking up his Leppy Stone now, and he'll be able to go grab his airship shortly. And it is more than likely that both of our runners will follow the same route here. But there is some deviation. Some runners, once they get the airship, they will go and learn their haste spells on their black mages. Like Thunder does not have haste, so he's going to have to make a side trip to go purchase haste. And I'm not sure if Preucheu has haste or not. I'll have to pay attention in a minute to see if he has haste on one mage or not. Because some runners will buy one haste early on and have a bit of a riskier endgame, but it's also faster. Yeah, thanks guys. I try and drop some knowledge about the game. It's a game I am pretty knowledgeable about. I mostly know the NES version of the game, but I've also played all of the other versions at least a decent amount. And I've done all sorts of challenge runs, so I know lots of weird party setups. So yeah, most likely Thunder is going to go to the Cardia Isles now and pick up his full restore items. The first one he's going to pick up will be the Elixir. Now, a lot of speedrunners, this will be the only one that they pick up, because it's the quickest to grab. But most people in the marathon setting want the extra safety and will pick up the X Potion also, which Thunder is going to do. And he will probably pick up the high-end money chests, or looks like he'll pick up all of them. And Preucheu's now on his way to pick up his airship. So yeah, this X Potion and Elixir will be very important for taking out Chaos. We won't want to use them for any other fight. Just that one battle is very important to be able to full heal your monk over and over again. So Thunder is going to go to the caravan now, which on the NES version you could actually land on the caravan title itself. But they fixed that in every other version of the game. Well, besides the MSX version, which can also do that. But that doesn't really count. Nobody plays that version of the game. We get to buy the Bottled Fairy, and then the Hidden Item Shop, where they have Giant's Tonics and Speed Drinks. Most runners will pick up 3 Giant's Tonics and 3 Speed Drinks for the Chaos Battle. Giant's Tonics will temporarily increase your max HP by 200, and the Speed Drinks will increase the amount of swings you get by 1. And since the monk is barehanded, the monk gets double swings while barehanded, so it gives him 2 more swings per speed drink. And since he will also be fasted after that, or hastened, he will actually get 4 extra swings from 1 speed drink, which is pretty nice for late game damage. You throw a few of those, and you're swinging 32 times instead of 20 times, which really ups the amount of damage you can do. So Thunder is buying some pro rings. Most runners want to buy 3 pro rings to give your mages a little bit of defense, and also resistance to instant death, which definitely helps out on a few fights in the game. Not very many, but a few. Preucheu has his airship, and looks like he's going to go to the Cardia Isles before the waterfall, which is what some runners will do. I personally wait until after the waterfall, and just do all of my shopping all at once. But some people like to do shopping ahead of time. It's all player preference. for the order they want to do things. Thunder getting the Oxyel so we can enter the Sea Shrine. The Sea Shrine is a great place to go to. We try to get there as soon as possible because it's got the best piece of armor in the game there, and an extra ribbon, which of course we want. We want these ribbons real fast. A lot of late game enemies are going to just spam AoE magic on you, and you need to be able to survive it. So Thunder has not done all of his late game shopping yet. At least not to my knowledge. I could have missed it when he was in Gaia. He could have purchased all of his Phoenix Downs high potions and ethers, but he'll probably make a trip after finishing the Sea Shrine to buy the last of his items. And so it looks like Preucheu is making his way to the waterfall. As expected, some runners will do the volcano after waterfall, but a majority of them, after the Sea Shrine, they'll do the volcano battles. But that's all just player preference. The game expects you to go to the volcano before you even go to the ice cave. But we don't want to do that because the volcano, it doesn't have any good loot in it. There's not a single item we want to pick up in there. So we just don't. We avoid all the treasure chests there, and we also avoid all the random encounters because they end up not being worth much experience. Preucheu's getting into 2 fights with Green Dragon. Green Dragons are worth one of the highest amount of experience and money in the entire game. They used to be an extremely rare encounter in the waterfall, but I feel like they're pretty common now. And so Thunder has picked up the Blizzaga spell, which will be used for dealing with water elementals, but it can also be used to deal with most of the regular encounters also in the dungeon. Most enemies are 1 or 2 shot by Blizzaga. So Thunder picked up the Diamond Armlet, or Bracelet. It is the single best defensive item for any non-class changed character in the game, and it's also the best armor for any class changed mage or monk in the game. So his chat asks about my thoughts on Blizzagas. Some people like to skip buying Blizzagas or only buy 1. I personally like to buy 2 just so I have more spell charges to use. But some people like to save up that money to buy more items, or even buy ruby bracelets, which I think is a perfectly viable strategy. If you guys were hanging out for the run a few hours ago, I was actually spending extra money to buy 2 ruby bracelets, so that my mages could survive a lot more attacks than a lot of other people's squishy mages. It's all just a preference. Both strategies work out. I think being safer doesn't hurt while you're learning the game, or if you're in like a marathon type setting or a race, a little extra safety doesn't hurt. But if you're going for PB times, some people like to risk it, and that's perfectly fine. So yeah, Preucheu, one of his mages, has really good HP. 280 something already. 284. That's HP we like to see. That gives him enough HP that he can survive a tsunami from chaos, which is great. We like to see that. One of Thunder's mages is struggling to break 200 still, which is fine. He has time to take more battles. Because for the end game, you do want your mages to have over 200 HP. Ideally, you get close to 300, so you can survive a tsunami. So Thunder is about to pick up one of the best items in the whole game, the Giant's Glove. which will cast Saber when used in combat, which increases your attack power by 16 and your accuracy by either 10 or 8, which helps you do more damage and swing a little bit more often, which we will be using on the Monk for all of the endgame. So Preucheu selling off his items and preparing for his shopping spree in Gaia. So with the Giant's Gloves, they default to the bottom of your inventory. Now we're at a part of the game where a lot of runners will auto-sort their inventory, then manually move the Giant's Glove to an easily accessible location. I personally like to have the Giant's Glove just under the high potion. So in every fight that you're going to use the Monk with the Giant's Gloves, you just have to press down once in your menu and you throw on the Giant's Gloves. But that's also a preference. Some people use the memory cursor so they don't really care where the Giant's Gloves are in their inventory. So that also depends on the players, but it's something that you generally see after you get the Giant's Glove picked up. Looks like Preucheu will also buy 3 Pro Rings. That used to not be the strategy. For a while, people used to try to always purchase 1 Ruby amulet and 1 Pro Ring. The Pro Ring just for the late game Monk. And the Ruby bracelet would be for just immediate defense on 1 mage. But that's definitely changed over time to people liking to buy more Pro Rings for just spreading out the absorption on their poor little squishy mages. So Thunder is now on Kraken's floor. After like 4 or 5 more random encounters, he should be at Kraken. And Kraken is relatively easy. In this version of the game, we just cast Thunderclaude on him 6 times and he dies. Even if Kraken decides to punch one of your mages, you can just throw a Phoenix down and revive him in the back. Because Kraken doesn't have any AoE. So he's not likely to kill off your mage again, even if he's just sitting at 1 hit point. So Preucheu's making his way to Honorak to also go to the Sea Shrine. The Sea Shrine has really good encounters for experience. Most runners will try and take nearly every encounter here. Now, you can one-shot most enemies in the dungeon besides the white sharks and the spirit nagas, I think they're called, or water naga? They might be called water nagas in this one. Those are the only 2 enemies you cannot kill with 1 spell. Unless your mage has godlike intelligence by now, which is possible. I've seen it happen. And sometimes your mages can get really lucky and do 400 damage with their Thundaga spells, and they can one-shot the white sharks. Thundaga does come very close to beating up the white sharks. You can actually a lot of times take them out with 1 Thundaga and a melee attack from the black mages. And there goes Kraken for Thunder. Pretty easy as usual. Kraken is generally not a big threat. He can be very mean and just punch out both of your black mages, but it's pretty rare that that actually happens. And this battle that Preucheu has is actually like the worst encounter in the entire dungeon. It doesn't give a ton of experience or gold, and there's 9 enemies. It can be irritating when it ambushes you. But it is definitely worth to take just in case you fail to flee. You don't want 9 enemies to swing at you multiple times. That can just kill a lot of time. And looks like Thunder will go back to Honorak and purchase his final bit of items, all maxing out his high potions and ethers and buying enough Phoenix Downs to get him through the game. I generally recommend getting up to 20 Phoenix down as like just a minimum for going through the final few areas. You can make it through with like 10, but that can be real sketchy. So Preucheu just picked up his slab, or in this version of the game, the Rosetta Stone. Thunder is going to be translating that here in a short minute. And he's also purchasing a silver armlet for his black mage. I believe he only bought one, but hopefully he bought two. If you buy two, then you can have both of your black mages at the end of the game with a silver bracelet. If you only buy one, then once you equip the monk with the diamond armlet, you are lacking defense on one of your mages. But most runners will pick up a silver bracelet here if they don't pick it up earlier on in the game. So Thunder had to run back to Melmond to learn how to speak Lufanish, so we can go to the town of Lufania and pick up our time. So earlier we picked up the Warp Cube. The Warp Cube lets us go to Sky Castle, but we can't even enter Mirage Tower without the chime. So technically you don't have to go to the waterfall until after you've done the Sea Shrine. But we want that early ribbon, and we really want to sell the Wizard Staff and the Defense Sword and pick up all the free money in there. Which is why we go to it in a bit of a different order in this version of the game. In old routes, when we would class change, we would generally go there second, and we would have the teleport spell to get through the waterfall quickly. But routes change over time, and people find faster ways to do things. So now Thunder has the chime and can enter the Mirage Tower, while Preucheu's making his way down to the Giant's Glove. Well, the Giant's Glove floor here in a second. The Giant's Glove is definitely something you don't want to forget. If for some reason you forget to pick up the Giant's Glove, you are going to struggle mightily in the endgame. I know when I was first derusting this version of the game after playing the NES for a while, I kind of forgot about the Giant's Glove because it doesn't work on the NES for me. So I was used to just skipping by it all the time. So when I started derusting this game again, I quickly realized when I went to the end game that I didn't have the Giant's Glove. My monk was just kind of standing there like, "Hi guys, I don't do any damage." So Thunder is about to enter Mirage Tower now. Mirage Tower has slightly better encounters than Sea Shrine, but they are pretty close to the same. A lot of runners will start to run from a lot of encounters in here if they feel like their HP is good enough for the endgame. So Thunder's monk has 288 health, which is very low. So odds are Thunder is going to try and take every fight possible to get that monk up to about 350 HP. As chat asked, yes, the Giant's Glove does work on the NES randomizer. The randomizer fixes all the bugs that the original game had, so you can use things as they were intended to be. Now with that in mind, the Giant's Glove working is honestly pretty OP for the NES. But like, Chaos only has 2000 HP, and you can really quickly be able to one-shot him. So they definitely didn't design the boss fights in mind with working Temper and Saber spells. So Thunder here is fighting a wild blue dragon, which used to be extremely rare. In this version of the game, I feel like it's pretty common. You recognize that Blue D? Yep, we just found him as a random encounter, and now he's a little mini-boss battle. Not too difficult. 2 Blizzagas takes him out. Don't try and cast Thundaga on him if you're out of Blizzaga spells, because Thundaga doesn't do much to the blue dragon. He is the lightning elemental dragon in this game. So if you only buy one Blizzaga, you're probably going to want to use, I don't know, Fire Ega? And I don't know if one Fire Ega and one Blizzaga will do enough to finish him off. I think it's a little bit short generally. Yeah, I get a wild blue dragon on the blue dragon floor all the time also. So black flans are actually worth it if they're in large packs. When they're in groups of like 3 to 4, they're not really worth a ton. So a lot of people will run from them when they're in small groups. When they're in large groups of like 6 to 8, they are worth a lot of experience. So they actually get taken out with one Fire Ega. Thunder is picking up the final ribbon in the game now. Some runners like to defrost their monk as soon as they get the ribbon, and others will wait until right before the Tiamat battle. Both players need HP on their monks. Everybody's black mages are looking acceptable, but both monks are a little short on experience or on HP. So the monks don't have very many guaranteed strong level ups on hit points early on in the game. They have a strong level up at level 2, 6, 12, 18, 24, then 30. Generally our runners are around level 26-ish right now, and so they don't have another guaranteed level up on the monk until level 30. So a lot of times runners will try and push for level 30 when they're in the final dungeon. Now the monk, if he barely has good HP at level 30, you can try and push him up to level 32, because at 32 he gets another strong level up. That's when the monk actually starts gaining hit points. The monk is supposed to be a very weak character in the early game, but become a powerhouse in the late game. So his HP doesn't start to crank up until you actually get into the 30s. But we want the black mage, or the black belt, sorry, to have at least 350 HP for Lich 2, so he can survive a flare. And you honestly want him to be over 400 for Chaos, but you'll take whatever you have by the time you get there. So Thunder is gonna force one encounter for extra experience, then be ready for Tiamat. He really wants that monk to level up. So his monk finally hits 300 HP, which is pretty low. Tiamat 1 is generally more difficult than Tiamat 2 is. Tiamat 1 only has 2 things she can do. Spam powerful skills that really hurt your characters, or melee attack you. And while Thunder's fighting Tiamat here, Preucheu's now translating his Rosetta Stone, so he can go pick up the chime and play some catch up. Tiamat doing a rare melee attack, not something that happens very often, but can make this fight a little bit more sketchy. Throwing out high potions is generally a safe call, because you want that monk to be alive as long as possible, so you can hopefully 2-pound Tiamat for punching. And there we go, Tiamat 1 is down, while Preucheu's going over to acquire his chime. The fights on the way to the chime, most of the battles here can be taken out with one Fire Ega, unless you fight the worms, wyverns, or giants. I guess also the T-Rexes, or not T-Rex, I think they're called Tyrannosaurus on this version. Or Allosaurus? I don't know, they changed around the names, so I don't remember exactly what they're called. But Thunder's done here and gets to move on to the volcano. The volcano is a very weak dungeon for when we're at in the game. We are over leveled for it, and we definitely don't care about the equipment that we're going to acquire there. And you will see in a minute that Thunder is going to be walking on as many lava tiles as possible. Walking on the lava, you take 1 point of damage per step for all of your characters. But you cannot get into a random encounter on the lava. It does still increase, it counts as you taking a step and makes it so you can still get into a battle quickly. So a lot of times when runners are walking on a lot of lava, then they step off the lava, they get into a random encounter right away. Because it's saying, hey, you're late on your encounter, it needs to be here. But you walk on as much lava as possible to avoid as many encounters. So you get a lot fewer encounters in this dungeon. Like Thunder's doing now, just lowering, taking these free steps. I think he's trying to get his fighter to 1 HP. He must not like his fighter very much, just sit at 1 hit point the whole time. But yeah, the lava, you can just sit there walking back and forth in the lava forever and not get into a single encounter. But as soon as you take 1 step off, there's your encounter. It's interesting how they did that in this version. It's the only one that's like that exactly. Because in most other versions, taking your lava tiles doesn't increase your steps for your next encounter. But this one it does. It's still good to walk on lava though. Carrie herself is not a very challenging encounter. She is generally one of the easier fiends, but she can be mean. Her melee attacks do hurt, and if she crits the monk twice, he can get taken out here. And Preucheu still trying to take some battles here to level up, since both of their monks are kind of low on the hit points. He definitely was not trying to change the encounters on the next floor, because once you enter the next floor, it doesn't carry over all of your steps from the previous floor. He was probably just listening to the commentary and showing off that you can just walk back and forth on the lava and not get an encounter. That would be my assumption on it. But yeah, for going through different floors, a lot of times you can just, like in the waterfall, or not the waterfall, the volcano, you can walk through, there's a room that's like nothing but lava. If you take 1 step onto the regular land on that floor, you'll get into a fight. But you just go downstairs and it gives you a bit of buffer still until your next encounter. I'm not sure exactly how that works, if it's like 5-ish tiles of room, I don't know. But there is a little bit of reset from how those tiles work when you leave the floor. So Preucheu's now on his way to pick up his final ribbon. Getting that 3rd ribbon is very important for the monk. The monk already has much worse magic defense than the black mages, and you'll see when enemies do AoE that it will hit the monk harder than your mages. So you definitely need a ribbon on him. And Thunder is entering the final dungeon. We need to get all of our crystals lit so we can actually destroy that black orb and go 2,000 years in the past. And now Thunder is in the final dungeon, which is worth a lot of XP. A lot of the fights give so much XP here. If your characters have enough hit points, a lot of high-end runners will run from every battle here at the end of the game. But when you need hit points, you need to take the battles. Or you can try and risk the endgame fights and just pray for good RNG for everything. It's possible he was trying to clear the steps, but I still am guessing he was probably listening to the commentary and probably just trying to show off that he was not getting an encounter no matter how many steps he took. That's my guess. I could be wrong. he could have not liked getting an encounter on that tile, which most runners do get an encounter there because of how many lava tiles you walk on. The Death Eye here gets taken out in 2 Fire Agons. Not too challenging. But the Death Eye does have the highest critical strike chance out of any enemy in the game. So if he starts meleeing your characters, it can really hurt. But he gets killed pretty easily in this version. Alright, Preucheu's on his way to Tiamat. So you'll see that our runners moved their monks down to the bottom 2 slots. Because both of those 2 slots at the bottom, 3 and 4, they're both the lowest chance to be targeted. Both of them have a 12.5 chance to be targeted by single target actions, like melee attacks. So most runners will put their monk down to the bottom 2 slots on any fight that has powerful melee attacks. So generally runners will not do that for Lich, because Lich's melee attacks are something you'd love to see. But Tiamat, Carry, Kraken, their melee attacks can all be threatening, so most people will move their monks down to the bottom for safety, because if the monk dies, the fight's over. If your black mages die, you can carry on. So Tiamat 1 here, she can be very threatening. She still melees the monk anyways. Which, honestly, her melee attack, as long as it doesn't crit, is better than her using her skills. Because her skills are over 100 damage to every party, which can take your characters down really quickly. But if she punches a mage, they're being one-shot, because they don't have as much armor that the monk has. So Tiamat down for Preucheu, and he gets to move on to the volcano. The volcano is definitely the quickest dungeon for it. We fight the least amount of battles there and just fly on through. Even though it has a lot of floors, we can still go through it pretty quickly. And Thunder here is fighting purple worms. Purple worms are worth a ton of XP. It takes 2 spells to kill them. They do have pretty low physical defense though. So if you have high level melee characters, not our monk, he's still not strong enough to one-shot them. But if you had a fighter with an Excalibur, you could one-shot those purple worms with your melee attacks. And these golems are worth good experience. They can be very scary though, because they can cast haste and one-shot your mages. But Thunder really wants HP on his monk, so he's taken everything he can. Which I understand, I've had a lot of monks with bad hit points lately. Preucheu's monk isn't looking much better. I think he's a level behind, so they're probably about the same hit points when they're the same level. But yeah, this is the floor I was talking about, where you have so many steps there. And you just don't get an encounter, and you always get one right here. As long as you take the correct routing to make it through the floor. Alright, here we go. Lich 2. Lich, all the Fiend refights here have been buffed quite a bit from their previous versions. With Lich, we want him to do anything except for cast Flare. Flare is the most likely ability for him to use, so you hope for the best. And him punching the fighter is the best thing that can happen. That's the best thing you can see on any fight in the whole game, people just punching the fighter. And look at that, a very tame Lich 2 for Thunder. And Preucheu's got 2 more random encounters until he gets the carry, or Merilith in this version. On the NES, Merilith's name is Carry. They just didn't have enough room to name fiends what they wanted to. And everything on the fire floor here in the Temple of Fiends is weak to Blizzaga. So if you want, a lot of runners will make their monk flee here, while their mages just cast Blizzaga. But Thunder desperately wants to have more HP for the Chaos battle, which I understand. I believe that was level 30, which it was, so his monk broke 350 hit points. That's the magic number you really want to be at. I mean, you want to have over 400, so you can survive one melee attack from Kraken, and from Chaos, but you get what you get. Preucheu here is on Merilith, quite easy, while Thunder's on Merilith 2. Merilith 2 is definitely more threatening than Merilith 1. If she melees the monk, it can easily be over right away. So you just hope that she only focuses on the black mages, or just casts spells. Because her spells are not that much. And attacking the statue again, that's what we like to see. So Preucheu's on his way to the final dungeon also. This is still anyone's race, because Thunder still has to get past the biggest roadblock, which is Chaos. No matter how prepared you are for Chaos, he can still shut you down. Lots of people like to call the Chaos battle the casino, because you have no control over it. Really, you just hope that you get lucky. I mean, that's not true. You do have some control over the battle. You can definitely make poor choices and make the battle over real quickly. But he has most of the control. If he decides to spam his powerful skills, you're just gonna wipe. Your characters don't have the hit points to survive a double tsunami, or double cyclone, double flare. Honestly, a single flare can just ruin your day. Or if he decides, hey, I'm gonna cast fast on myself and punch your monk. What you gonna do about it? Because Chaos's melee attacks hit for around 400 apiece. So when he casts fast on himself, he's gonna punch you for 800 damage. Even with 3 giant tonics on your characters. That's going to hurt. And if he does that twice in a row, you can't stop that, and you'll just die. Preucheu here fighting the double green dragons. That's a very lucrative encounter. If you can get 4 green dragons, I think it's the second best encounter in the game besides Warmech, and 4 purple worms. And Thunder here getting ready for Kraken 2. Kraken 2 is all about just punching people down. You want him to either use Ink, punch the fighter, or use Thundara. Preucheu gets past his Death Eye and gets to pick up his final elixir. So both of our runners have 3 full heals. Oh, and that's what you don't want to see for Thunder. And now is the difficult decision of how to die to Kraken 2. Kraken can be real mean if he wants to. He can just spam Ink and waste your time. But at least he's doing something that does damage to Thunder to take him out. But yeah, Kraken does this sometimes. So it would have been faster for Thunder to just reset. But you don't know how that's going to go. Sometimes resetting the game makes it so your controllers just freak out a little bit. So a lot of times it's safest to just die in battle. So we'll hope for a second Kraken fight to go better than the first. And every death on Thunder's side is more catch-up time for Preucheu. He's definitely still in the race. He's got 2 more floors here, and he'll be at Lich 2, only a few fiends behind. And running through the fiends doesn't really take that much time. and a crit on the monk. You hate to see it. If you've done a decent amount of damage to Kraken, you can spam out Blizzaga. Blizzaga actually does the most damage to Kraken too. He is not weak to electricity or ice, and he also doesn't resist either of them. So you can spam Blizzaga, then Thundaga to take him out, which Thunder did. So he at least survived the battle by using a backup strategy there. But yeah, reviving the monk is almost never the play. It just takes so much time to try to set it back up, and to heal him, and then to rebuff him. So Iron Golems used to be an insanely rare encounter. That's also worth a lot of experience, but they're not that rare anymore. Iron Golem got a very high absorption rating of 100, which makes it so most melee attacks don't do any damage unless you crit. And he also resists, I think, every element besides time and electricity, which is why Thunder used Thundaga on the Iron Golem to take it out. So Preucheu is coming up to Lich 2 here. We hope for a flareless Lich also. And Preucheu is only a few minutes behind Thunder. That's only like 2 wipes to Chaos, separating these two. So it's still pretty close. And one more punch for Thunder should end Tiamat, or 2. That's unfortunate. His monk just did some low rolls there and he did not finish her off in 3 attacks. Tiamat 2 has 5500 HP. So depending on if your monk low or high rolls, it can take you an extra round to take her out. And that can be the difference. There we go, and Lich 2 down for Preucheu. No flare today. We like to see that. Flare can be pretty devastating if you don't have like a white mage on standby. Which, I mean, nobody really runs a white mage in this game. White mages are safe, but they take you a little bit longer to get through anything, since they lack the offensive capacity of the black mage. So Thunder is throwing out a bunch of high potions to keep his monk alive, which is ideal. So Preucheu does what a lot of runners do and leave the monk in the top slot there until Merilith 2. A lot of times after Merilith 2, runners will throw the monk down to the bottom. And there he goes, moving it down to the bottom slot. I mean, okay, I'm crazy enough to run a white mage, but most other people don't want to try something like that. Looks like Thunder here is trying to force a few more encounters because he does not like his monk's hit points. He is not safe to survive a one punch from Chaos. The extra level up puts him closer. That's not a guaranteed amount of HP to survive one melee attack from Chaos, but it's close. I think Chaos can do around 424 as like a high-end roll without a crit. And there's Merilith 2 down. We'll see how Chaos is for Thunder. It's very RNG based. Haste on turn 1 it's nice in the fact that nobody is dead, but it is scary in the fact that if he gets punched, he's dead. Because now Chaos can do over 800 damage like that in one swing. And he did not get the Giant's Tonic off on his monk. So his monk with 800 HP can still be one shot. That's what we like to see. Chaos punching the statue. This is where the statue really shines. Every turn that Chaos wastes on the statue is just more turns for us to buff our monk. And it's the only way that we actually survive with this party. Yeah, critical punch from Chaos, 1100 damage. No one's surviving that. Not even the monk with 999 HP, fully healed. He survives a punch, just barely, and he's still in it. He has time to use an elixir. That was great turn order. But sadly he's in danger range again, and only has about 8,000 damage on Chaos. And Chaos low rolls with Cyclone. Thunder's getting pretty lucky here and has a chance, but he's out of healing items, so he just has to go all out offense. I didn't see what happened on Preucheu's side. There we go, Thunder, first try, Chaos. GG. And that's a very respectable time too. I believe that's now the fastest completion in the tournament even. So that was great for Thunder. It was very sketchy. He got down to single digit HP twice. Now imagine if he didn't force that last encounter to give his monk that extra like 12 HP. But we get to focus on Preucheu now, who's working on Kraken 2. I'm guessing Kraken 2 probably punched down his monk the first time. I was focused on Chaos there, so I didn't see what happened. But I'm assuming his monk got punched and he didn't want to risk trying to have Chaos punch down his last characters. And again, Kraken not playing nicely. Oh, I need... let's see if I can figure out how to say that Thunder won. I'm not sure how to find that. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but Preucheu here really getting unlucky with this Kraken 2. Just unfortunate when he punches you. So hopefully he'll get through this time. Pandara is definitely better than seeing him punch you. There we go, much better this time. Alright, now Tiamat's floor. Tiamat's floor is pretty easy. There's only one encounter that we get onto, which is nice. Because Tiamat's floor's got quite a few encounters if you go try to pick up the Masamune. Which we don't see in this run, sadly. It's a pretty cool weapon, and that's painful turn 1. Hopefully he can get some high potions off before his monk goes down. These fiends have not been nice to Preucheu. They're all meleeing his monk. So the monk is still in danger range. Fyra, he should survive. That was one of the nicer things that Tiamat could do. She actually has 3rd tier magic for some reason, which isn't very powerful at this point in the game. And Kraken 2, or Tiamat 2 down. One more battle. We'll see if Preucheu can get a first try Chaos also. It's actually pretty uncommon to first try Chaos. But both of these runners have done it before. I know, I've seen it when they raced me. So it can happen. I mean, Thunder did it again today. One last encounter to get the extra level up on the Black Mage. And here we've got Thunder. GG on the race.
Thanks.
It was that was a very scary chaos battle.
Yeah, he punched me down to some very low HP numbers.
You were in single digit HP twice.
Just goes to show all the extra fights I took paid off.
Oh yeah, I was telling everybody watching the race that you were taking more fights than you normally would, and it was probably because your monk had no hit points.
Yeah, for as higher level as I was, he was still pretty low compared to, the level I got to, but, I mean, anything that's like 350 or 330, 350 or higher, I'm happy with, but, in a race setting where you're not necessarily going for your PB and you can stretch a little bit more with the safety, decided to just get a little more, maybe even just the stats alone,
That's unfortunate. Preucheu's monk going down to a melee attack. And I bet you were happy that you farmed up that last counter for that extra like 12 hit points on your monk.
Yeah, that's called calculations right there.
I was surprised when your monk lived at 3 HP, then again with like 5.
Yeah, I think that and then the fact that I threw out the high potion and it mattered was pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
Too.
Sometimes, hey, that it comes in clutch. Just playing the fight properly.
Yeah,
you can hope for the best.
The 3rd full heal, where in the speedrun you'd probably have 2, that made the huge difference too.
Oh yes. I think almost everybody has played it safe and picked up 3 full heals in the race.
Yeah,
because
I think it's smart in this kind of just a race one-on-one setting to just do it. It's like 30 seconds at most that you lose.
Yeah, it's not worth the extra risk.
It's not worth the extra 4 chaos attempts.
Exactly. Because we've seen some 10 plus attempts on chaos this race. Or this tournament, I should say. Not this race. Not yet, hopefully. Tsunami. You hate to see it. It generally nearly one-shots your Black Mage. Both the Black Mages having over 300 HP will survive that, luckily. But get a bunch of Giant's gloves off, and hopefully he can solo the rest of the fights. We want to increase the monk's attack by... Most people try to gain at least 100 attack on the monk. That's usually my goal, is to gain around 100 attack.
Yeah, I think of it more of how many sabers / tempers. I don't think the numbers myself, but like, if it's all saber gauntlets or giant gloves, I'd say 5 is the minimum that I feel good with. Sometimes I'll just do 6. But like tempers, if I'm throwing out 2 tempers in the giant's glove, I'll just go 2 rounds of buffs, maybe, then hopefully another temper goes off and I'm happy.
There we go, 5k, that's what we like to see. So Chaos was full since the Kiraga. He's down to 10,000 now. And if he keeps critting like that, one more and this will do it. There we go. That was a pretty good fight that time.
Yeah, that was a good one. GG.
And still a respectable time of 2:02. This was a pretty close race overall. Thunder, you really held the lead there for most of the game. But it wasn't by a whole lot for most of it.
Yeah, my early game wasn't terrible, but my marsh was kind of slow and had a couple bad fights and stuff. But overall, I don't think the game was too bad as a run. I think at the end, when I got to Kraken 2, I started getting some bad luck on Kraken 2 and Tiamat 2, but not too bad, I guess.
I'm surprised that you survived the Pisco Demon ambush.
Well, that's funny, because I was thinking of resetting and just reloading, but then I know how this game kind of works is if you get ambushed by enemies, you usually get first priority turn order in round 2. So I thought, well, my Black Mage with Thundara is still up. I'll see what happens in round 2. And that's also why I didn't defend with all my characters in the second round, because I knew they would all swing before the Pisco Demons would attack. So I was hoping that they would take out all the Pisco Demons but one, maybe.
It
But that
paid
didn't
off.
happen.
I mean, the fighter died, but who cares about the fighter, right?
Yeah, if you have that extra Phoenix down from the box, in the first box there, it's fine to lose at least one there.
And I mean, the fighter's the best one to go down, so you can get XP on the party members that matter.
Yeah, yep, and then Astos was, a 2-try Astos is always good compared to the average. But I
Yeah,
almost had the 1-try, he just got that death off. And as soon as I talked to the king for the first pull, I was like, I should have put my black belt in the bottom slot in case death comes out.
Yep.
Yep, and it did.
Yeah, I try to keep the black belt out of slot 1. If he's in slot 2, it's fine if the fighter's still there. But just not in the top slot.
Yeah, I put him in the top slot getting out of March just because I wanted to direct as many attacks as I could off the Black Mages onto the Black Belt on the way out, and then I just didn't think before talking to the Astos NPC to switch them.
Welcome in, Preucheu, and GG on the run.
Thanks.
GG, Preucheu.
GG.
So that was a relatively close race for a lot of it, and a 2-try chaos isn't too bad.
Yeah, it's really great. But yeah, I got really lucky in the first rounds, but there at the beginning was really difficult.
Yeah, you definitely had some very difficult counters on the ocean. They just wanted to kill off your mages.
Yeah, and a lot of encounters that don't give money. So I was very short, and it was it was hard to play safe with no money.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when that happens. Thunder got a 5-pack of Buccaneers, so he didn't have that money issue.
Well, I did have to take 2 extra fights to get that Buccaneer fight, though, so I do feel for that
but
pain.
it was still relatively quick.
Yeah, because when I arrived to Elfheim, I had 8,000 gold, right? Yeah, I had to take many more fights, but yeah, it happened.
I was pretty surprised that both your guys' black mages looked pretty healthy.
Yeah.
They all had good HP. Your guys' monks both were struggling though.
Yeah, my Black Mage, one of them had like barely over 70 HP after the Pisco Demon fight, and I was a little concerned how that was going to play out for Lich, but he shot up, got 2 good level ups pretty quick back to back, and ended up at the 130 range fairly shortly after.
Yeah, I was worried when his HP was 70 at like level 8 or something. It's like, well, this could be bad.
Yeah, but I did get both Black Mages to have 30 intelligence before Lich, which almost never happens for me. I almost never get one Black Mage with 30 intelligence before Lich.
Exactly. I was surprised you actually could kill him off in 5 Fire Egas compared to the normal 6 Fire Egas and 1.5 Thundaras.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was no flares on Lich 2. That was nice to see. But no War Mechs either.
No more mechs, no. But I mean, Kraken for me. I think he killed me 4 or 5 times. 4, I'd say.
Oh yeah, Kraken 2 was not nice.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, I saw I had the chat open up when I was running through Volcano, and someone was asking why I decided to do a back and forth run on the lava on a whatever floor that is, like the 3rd floor volcano, 4th floor. The one before
Yes.
you get to all the boxes on the zigzag. I do that because whenever you get to the encounter limit, like the game says, all right, after 25 steps, you're getting an encounter. Or it says whatever. It's like a range between like 23 and 32 or something like that. So whenever you hit that number that it predetermines when you're going to get your encounter step, if you go onto a screen transition or talk to an NPC that engages a fight, it resets that number down to 0, and it tries to count to the next encounter. So whenever I do that on that floor particularly, I get my number all the way up to the max, then I go to the staircase, reset it, and it allows me to run just a little bit farther on the Agama floor afterwards before I get my next encounter, which ultimately saves one encounter through the whole dungeon.
And that's not a bad strategy, so yeah. Chat was correct about that. I wasn't sure if you were listening to the commentary and just being like, look, I can't get into an encounter.
No, I actually didn't. I had it muted.
But yeah, there's definitely different strategies for how people try to get through everything. But that's not a bad idea, trying to skip an encounter in a dungeon that you don't want to see the fights. I mean, there are a few battles on that floor that aren't terrible. Like, the red dragon is okay. 2 of the red giants also okay, but that's about it. You can get just like 2 okay encounters.
Yeah, they're at that point in the game, when you're getting there at the end, it's not really worth killing this stuff for the EXP.